Hello everybody, welcome to another Facebook Live here at the aquarium. Taylor and Nick with you, coming to you from a very special place. We are inside of the Southern Rockhopper Penguin exhibit, and we are with a couple other important people too here as well. To my left is Eric Fox. He is the supervisor and lead aquarist of our penguin department. Amanda is also here to my right, another aquarist as well. She's going to be doing some things in the back of our camera unit. And we may also need to give the penguins a chance to speak to each other as well. So you're going to have to be patient with us during this presentation. You'll notice that Taylor and I are dressed appropriately for the colder temperatures of our penguin exhibit water. It's about 55 degrees Fahrenheit or so. And we are here for a special reason. We didn't just con our way into this exhibit.
Maybe a little bit.
Well, yeah, maybe a little bit. But there's something really interesting that we want to talk about today, and that is penguin enrichment. And Eric and Amanda are both going to help us to talk a little bit more about that. So let's hop right into it, shall we?
All right, so we thought what we would start with today is just a refresher on what exactly we mean when we say enrichment. So I'm going to turn it over to Eric. And Eric, can you tell our viewers what we mean when we say enrichment?
Absolutely. So enrichment is something really important for our penguins. Enrichment is anything that changes their environment. So when it comes to any sort of stimulation we can provide for our animals, it can be mental stimulation, physical stimulation, but by providing changes in their environment, new challenges for them to accomplish, ways for them to explore their exhibit space that they haven't before, it's one of the most important components to helping to take care of animals within a zoo or aquarium.
Awesome.
Okay, yeah, so we're talking about enrichment. So why don't we ask you, Eric, to tell us a little bit more about the types of enrichment that you offer for the penguins. I think we're going to be able to see some of that happening behind us too. But yeah, go ahead and tell us more about that too.
Absolutely. So when it comes to enrichment, the first question you have to ask yourself is, what is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? And so there's many different things we might want to encourage our penguins to do. Things that are very natural for them in their native environments. And so some of the things penguins would oftentimes spend their time doing is swimming or even foraging for their fish. Penguins eat a variety of small to medium-sized schooling fish, and by providing different ways for them to acquire their diet, it's really helpful in making sure the animals stay active, engaged, and are practicing those natural behaviors. So I actually had a few fish to accomplish that goal of foraging. Now, when we naturally feed our penguins each and every day, we'll typically do it up on land. It gives us the good chance to do a visual inspection of our animals. It gives us the chance to look at their eyes, their beaks, all the important body parts that they have. But it also allows us to track each individual's diet. Now, in addition to that, sometimes we'll try to spice it up for them. We'll give them other ways for them to engage in acquiring their diets. So something very simple, of course, we've got smelt for our penguins today. Some of them might find it really interesting if they just go hunting and fishing right in the water. So you'll see some of them are interested. It's not something that's totally normal for them, but more and more are starting to make their way into the water. Now penguins, they do have a beak to catch that fish, but they also have these little papillae in their mouth designed to help grasp onto that fish and guide it straight down their throat. So you'll notice right there, our male penguin Diego swam by. Our female penguin Keppel just swallowed a fish. And so this is a little bit of a change for them. It's not every day that we'll go and just throw some fish in the water for them to go after, to practice that normal foraging and hunting behavior. But it's a really great way to keep things a little bit different. It helps to reduce the predictability of each day and helps to keep their minds and bodies really active. Now there's many other behaviors or goals that we might have for an enrichment session. Sometimes we'll throw the fish in, other times we might want to make it a little bit more challenging. We might want mental stimulation beyond just that normal hunting and fishing. So we have different sort of puzzles for our animals to solve. A really good example is something like this feeder ball right here. So I can actually fill this feeder ball with some fish and then put this in the water for them so that over time they'll start knocking the ball here or there to loosen up some of those fish and acquire their diet that way. This is something that they weren't super used to at first, Of course, a green ball really had no value when we first put it in, but by practicing it with them and giving them chances to succeed at enrichment sessions, we helped guide them through it. We showed them that it was associated with fish, and sometimes they'll even bob that ball around to acquire their diet. Now, all of that relates to their foraging behaviors, but there are other goals we might accomplish too. We might want them to explore different parts of their environment. They have an exhibit with a lot of swimming space, a lot of climbing space, a lot of components that mimic their native environments. But to make it more complex, we might be able to do other things, provide them other areas to explore. So you'll actually notice my friend Amanda over there has a floating island that is a new addition to the penguin colony today. And so another thing we can do is actually encourage them up onto that space. If you think about their native environments off the coast of Chile and Argentina, they might have different small rock islands or different areas to explore. And so we did a lot of work with our penguins to get them used to coming up to their feeding session in variable locations, whether it's up on the island, or on this floating island, or sometimes we'll change up where we're standing for their feeding sessions, so that they're encouraged to partake in different ways of acquiring their diet, different exercise, and overall just more stimulation each and every day.
All right, thank you so much for outlining some of the different types of enrichment that you'll do for our penguins. And I know Vanessa is getting you all some amazing shots of Amanda feeding our penguins on that floating island right now. Can you tell us what sorts of behaviors indicate that it's a positive experience, that you're seeing something that, like basically what are you looking for during enrichment sessions? How do you know it's going well?
Yeah, you bring up a really good question. We always want everything we're doing with our animals to be viewed as positive or reinforcing in nature. And so some things that we'll look out for is their overall response to each and every enrichment session. Sometimes the object might be brand new. That is the goal with enrichment, to keep it different and novel every day. But we also want to make sure the brand new things are introduced slowly so that we make sure we're never causing them to question what we're doing. We're never causing them to feel uncomfortable with any objects that are going into our exhibit. And so what we'll look for is an overall sense of curiosity, some sort of interest in the objects that we're bringing. And so at first, I actually expected them to take a little time to warm up to this island. I expected us to have to show it to them very slowly and overall desensitize the object's presence before we started making it engaging and fun for them. Well, it was actually really exciting. Just a few weeks ago when we tried out this enrichment object for the first time, we saw exactly this. We saw the penguins march right over. That interest shows us that it's positive in nature. And then also by providing some sort of reinforcement, some sort of reward, something they naturally like, it helps to make it even more engaging, even more rewarding for them. So you'll see Amanda has a big bucket of fish with her. Today the penguins are receiving a few different types of fish. We brought lake smelt as an extra treat. We also feed our penguins herring, capelins, sardines, anchovies, so they get quite a variety in their diet, which is also enriching in itself. By changing up what they're eating, by giving them different options for their fish intake, it helps to keep them a little bit unexpected, keeps our days a little unpredictable, which helps to keep our animals really engaged and interested.
Now, Eric, is all sorts of enrichment activities as successful as the flipper island, or how do you know if it's a success?
Well, working with animals is always very unpredictable. So not every enrichment session is super, super popular, right? We all have our bad days, we all have days where we're feeling a little lazy, and that can happen with the penguins at times. They might not be interested, or certain animals might be more interested in certain objects than others. And that's really important when we think about the goal of enrichment. We also have to think about how we're accomplishing that goal. And so when it comes to our objects that we're providing for them each and every day, when it comes to the challenges we're providing, every day we'll also finish our enrichment session by recording exactly what happens. That record keeping is really important to make sure that our animals are finding it interesting and engaging. And if they're not, that's okay too. Everything we're doing is voluntary. We want it to be positive for them, so we wouldn't force them to do any sort of enrichment session. It's really all up to their own decisions they make. But if we're having an object that's really not interesting, our animals aren't participating, we might look at our records and say, you know what, this one doesn't seem successful. How can we change what we're doing? How can we make it more rewarding for them? Or how can we accomplish those goal behaviors we're really setting out to accomplish?
Awesome.
Eric, I was going to ask you this question a little bit earlier, but have you drawn on other enrichment plans that are going on here at the aquarium to help design one for the penguins?
Absolutely. Enrichment is a popular thing for many animals throughout New England Aquarium. When we started our enrichment program with our penguins, we actually sought out a lot of advice from our marine mammal trainers. Marine mammals have a lot of different types of enrichment with different goal behaviors that go on every single day, and we were able to call upon our teammates to ask them for some advice on not only how to handle our enrichment sessions, but we even share objects. We can borrow a lot of the different things they use for our mammals that might not be as novel to them anymore that we can try out in our penguin exhibit. And so we are really appreciative that we get to work with such a dynamic group of individuals that allow us to keep thinking of creative ideas and creative ways to be able to accomplish our goals of enrichment.
So I know that there are probably some viewer questions, and we encourage you guys to put your questions in the comments section, of course, but just one last question for you to expound on, Eric. You've really already touched on this, but why is enrichment such an important element of their care plan?
That's a really great question. So when it comes to providing a great welfare for all of our animals, a lot of people know the basics. They know that our animals need proper nutrition, and that comes with the fish that we feed. They know that they need to be healthy, and that comes with our animal health department, working closely with our veterinary staff to provide that care for them. But in addition to health and nutrition, we also need to make sure that we're thinking about the behaviors and the mentation of our animals. By providing challenges, by making things interesting, by changing up what they get to do every day, we're providing a comprehensive welfare program that touches on every single component to what helps to make a healthy, thriving penguin here at New England Aquarium.
I think that's a really great point, Eric. So just to recap, it's not just about keeping our animals physically healthy, but also keeping them really mentally healthy and sharp as well. And I think that's a big component of why enrichment has become such an important part of how we care for not only our penguins and not only our marine mammals, but really, as Eric mentioned already, all of our animals here at the New England Aquarium.
Okay, that's another sign that the enrichment's going pretty well.
Well, on that note, I think maybe some viewer questions.
Rob asks, you look cold. What temperature is the water?
What temperature is the water? That's a great question. And I think Nick briefly touched on it when we first got in, but Eric, can you maybe remind our viewers, what is the average temperature for our penguin exhibit?
Sure. Penguin exhibit's right around 55 degrees today. It ranges between 50 and 60 degrees depending on the time of year. And even though this animal would naturally be found in a temperate climate, the water that penguins swim in is often very, very cold. Cold water means nutrient-rich fish, and so penguins go hunting and fishing in colder waters, and we try to make sure that we provide a mimicked environment for them here at the aquarium as well.
I'll also say we are wearing very thick wetsuits, but I was promised a hot shower when I got out of the penguin exhibit, so I'm looking forward to that. Do you have another question, Vanessa?
How many penguins are in this exhibit, and do you do enrichment activities with them every day?
Yeah.
Good one, yeah. Yeah, so we'll turn that one back over to Eric as well. And you guys may have noticed we're only in one section of our first floor that includes a whole other penguin exhibit.
First, I guess, how many total penguins? And then,
So here at New England Aquarium, we have over 60 penguins in our penguin colony. We have 15 southern rockhoppers and over 50 African penguins. And so when it comes to providing enrichment for them, we do try to make sure every day is different. We have different people entering the exhibit. We have different things going on every day. But also, sometimes if we don't do an enrichment session, that can be enriching in itself. By not having those opportunities every day, we help to make sure that it's novel. We help to make sure we can keep thinking of creative ideas, and that they don't get used to that floating island just always being there, or the fish ball always being there. We want to make sure that it's always unexpected. They never know what to think about it. So we might not always do it at 2 p.m. We might do it in the morning or at the very end of the day. And by providing such variable sessions, it helps to make sure every day is enriching on its own.
It's also enriching for the staff. We literally decided on doing this presentation because we saw Eric sitting on an island, and we were like, Eric, why are you sitting on that island? And he filled us in on this enrichment. So keep an eye out while you're here for that enrichment happening. Do we have another question out there, Vanessa?
Anne would like to know, are the penguins okay with 2 new people in the exhibit?
That's a great question. Are they okay with Nick and I being introduced to the exhibit? And there's actually a third person that you can't see. She's holding the camera right now. So again, I'll turn that over to Eric. How do our penguins feel about visitors?
Our penguins are very used to unfamiliar people coming in our exhibit, or a variety of different people coming in every day. We are lucky enough to have volunteers and interns who help us to accomplish our mission, our overall exhibit cleanliness. They help to enrich our animals, feed our animals, and so there's quite a few different people that get in the exhibit every day. But that trust with each individual person also takes a lot of time, and so slowly our volunteers, our interns, our new staff will start to work on their relationships with the penguins to be able to advance what they're capable of doing with them. So the penguins overall are completely fine with new people, but it does take a lot of work to get our animals to trust us and understand that we're not a threat. Of course, that's not the case in their native environments. In their native environments, penguins would find humans to be threatening. And so we do make sure to always maintain a certain boundary so that we understand that they are still wild animals. We're providing stimulation for them, but we're not treating them like pets. We're not trying to do things that are going to tame these animals. We're really just hoping to make sure this is as natural of an environment as can be.
Eric, I think that last statement was so key, because I got to tell you, my first instinct coming into this exhibit right now, what's happening around me makes me sort of want to engage with it in a way that's probably not safe for me, and certainly not good for the penguins either. So there's an instinct to do that. So kudos to you guys for maintaining those boundaries. Obviously, it's important for all of our penguins, but I would say it seems a little bit harder in this particular exhibit. So good for you guys, yeah. Any other questions, Vanessa?
Gail would like to know, why are the penguins vocalizing?
Eric, what do you think? Why do we have some shouty penguins this afternoon?
So penguins are super social in nature. They're very territorial animals. Sometimes they'll vocalize at their mates or penguins they have a good relationship with. Sometimes they'll vocalize at animals that they don't want in their territory. And so they really do interact in a very social dynamic. They'll vocalize towards each other to celebrate that maybe they're in their exhibit. It's some very, very exaggerated mating calls. Sometimes penguins will vocalize towards their chicks, and sometimes they'll vocalize in territorial disputes or just to make some noise. You'll find that once one penguin pair starts to vocalize, a lot of the other ones will follow. I think of that very much like birds in the morning. They're all vocalizing towards each other in sort of a territorial display.
Yeah, it's usually a, hey, you're in my spot, or hey, pretty lady.
Exactly.
And it could be a variety of both happening right now, because there is a lot going on in the exhibit. That's a great question. We have another question, Vanessa?
Will you be breeding the penguins in the future?
So this is a question about penguin breeding, and fortunately our staff are experts on this, so I'm glad you asked. While we have two of our amazing penguin staff with us, will we be breeding penguins here at the aquarium, Eric?
That's a great question, and a really important part of what we do. We're part of what's called a species survival plan. And this plan helps us to regulate our breeding to make sure that we have really healthy genetics among our population. By partaking in that plan, we can also make sure that we have penguin mates selected so that we can uphold a really, really great breeding program. A good product of that is one of our penguins who was just on that island a moment ago. Oh, she's right in front of Amanda. So Sea Cat is actually one of our youngest southern rockhopper penguins who hatched out as part of our breeding program just over a year and a half ago. She has recently gotten her adult feathers in, but if you were to have visited New England Aquarium just a few months back, you might have even seen what she looked like as a juvenile penguin.
That's actually one of my favorite things to point out to visitors because you might not notice it if you're not paying careful attention. Our juveniles do have slightly different plumage, and for our rockhoppers, it means that they don't have those distinctive yellow crest feathers yet. Our Africans, their juvenile plumage is a little bit different from adults. It's more charcoal gray color. And they haven't developed that white bar along their heads yet either. So you have to work a little harder to notice the juvenile rockhoppers. But they are such a special part of our penguin colony, and we do look forward to those juveniles eventually making it onto exhibit so that we can share that story about our species survival plan with our visitors. Do we have any more questions, Vanessa? Awesome. Well, I just want to say thank you again to Eric and Amanda for sharing penguin enrichment with our viewers this morning. And I think it is just so cool.
And here you too.
Yep. To highlight something that might seem kind of simple or kind of really basic if you were just to notice it coming here to the aquarium, but to understand really the layers underneath everything that goes into the care that our aquarists provide for our animals here at the New England Aquarium. So again, thank you for sharing today. Thank you for what you do for our penguins. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in today to join us to learn a little bit more about our penguins and penguin enrichment. If you come and visit us here at the aquarium, which we hope that you do, keep your eyes out for more enrichment behaviors happening. And for our viewers at home, keep your eyes out for more virtual content coming your way on both our website and our social media platforms. Thanks everyone, and have an awesome rest of your Tuesday.